French troops have begun fighting Mali's Islamist rebels. Armoured convoys have been streaming out from the Malian capital of Bamako to support French special forces and fight against Mali's Islamic militants in the town of Diabaly, in the first major ground operation of the conflict. France is trying to stop the advance of al-Qaida-linked fighters, bent on wresting control of the West African state. Air raids also continue in the northern half of the country, which the West fears could become a terrorist state and a base for Islamist militants to launch attacks on Europe. French President François Hollande has vowed to rid the country of terrorists, which according to Paris were only within days of taking over the capital of Bamako. Hollande said he is confident French troops will be able to answer the call of Malians and take back the north from Islamists.
Nous avons des événements qui arrivent.
Some events happen, and I talk about Mali, which affects us, France, first. Not because of our history in Africa, no, because we have values and principles. And when a country is attacked by terrorism, when a country calls on France, when African people ask us to be there, when the world, which doesn't have the same capacity and swiftness to intervene, gives us the international legality to do it, then France must be there. I took this decision, which was not an easy one, but if we had not taken it, then today Mali would probably be under the control of terrorists.
Paris is tripling its troops in its former colony, from 800 to 2,500, as it seeks to bolster the Malian army and work with the intervention force provided by West African states to wipe out the Islamist militant threat, a goal looking more and more like a long-term mission. In the capital, Bamako, military commanders from across West Africa gathered to discuss plans for an immediate deployment of troops to dislodge the Islamist rebels occupying the country's north, rapidly bringing forward a military intervention that was not due to start until September. Nigeria will lead the West African force, which will total about 3,300 under a UN Security Council resolution.
Planning, a lot of thinking, because a lot of logistics is required. And unless and until the planning is done properly, the mission may fail, the operation may fail, and we don't want to fail in this case. So therefore, we're not late. It's rather late than never. It's rather late than never. Which one would you prefer? That we come in a haste and we don't get the mission accomplished, or we do a proper planning and come in equipped?
Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, its recent splinter group, the Movement for Unity and Jihad in West Africa, and Ansar Dina have carved up northern Mali after hijacking last year's rebellion launched by Tuareg separatists from the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad. The French intervention forced the trio of Islamist groups to unite to fight their common enemy, but analysts believe their ideology and aims may also converge, as they could work together to achieve the same jihadist goal of imposing Sharia law in the entire country and beyond.
The difference between al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and the Movement for Unity and Jihad in West Africa is the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, because it's the same coin with two sides. Who can find a difference between the two groups when they all agree it's Islamic law and Sharia law that must be imposed? Is it a question of skin? Because one can see now that the elements of the Movement for Unity and Jihad in West Africa are made up of a majority from West African countries, especially Nigeria, Benin, and Togo.
According to Duty, in the past, al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb has always been more assiduous about spreading Islamic law than the other groupings. But because groups such as Ansar Dina depend on the support of al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, they have willingly complied with al-Qaeda's agenda of spreading Islamic law throughout the region and exporting revolutionary jihad. The flare-up in violence has also exacerbated the refugee crisis, with the UN estimating a further 30,000 people have been displaced from their homes since France's operation began last week, on top of 150,000 Malian refugees already registered in neighboring countries since April of last year.